Greetings and welcome back to MyfanwyNia's studio here in Leitrim's Iron Mountains. If you're new here, my name is Harriet and I am a visual artist in Ireland's northwest. Today I'm going to show you my process for making these resin encased art prints. This is a wonderful way to present prints of your artwork. I like to embellish the prints and make each one its own little piece of artwork. They make great gifts and are a wonderful craft to bring along to fairs and conventions, especially if you're planning a little stall and you're looking for new ways to uniquely merchandise your work. Starting out, I printed out copies of one of my mermaid watercolor paintings onto quality photographic paper, making sure that the prints were the right dimension to fit my molds, which are small, round silicone cake molds. Using Photoshop, I've already cropped my mermaid painting into a circle. I use the stroke tool to give the shape a strong outline around my circle. I will be using my cutting machine to cut these out, and the strong outline will make the edge very easy for my machine to detect. You can of course follow the line very neatly with your scissors, but I like to use the cutting machine because it cuts out the circles pretty perfectly. Plus, if you're making a big batch of these, it's handy to have a tool like this. This is my basic process for matting these down ready for the machine to cut out. The cutting mat is tacky, similar to a Cricut cutting mat. Although there is a tacky surface, I like to put a little bit of washi tape or masking tape around the edges for a little bit more security. My cutting machine is a Brother Scan and Cut C900. The beauty of this machine is the onboard scanner, so we can scan the image of the prints directly into the machine and the machine will detect the outlines. It's also, of course, going to scan all the bits of pattern on the washi tape and any other marks it might pick up. But it's very easy on the little screen on the machine to identify the bits that we don't want the machine to cut out and select the parts that we do. All I want to cut out here is those strong black outlines around my round prints. So it takes me a few minutes just to set that up, and then my machine is ready to quickly cut this out. I'm making a small series of free prints. And next I want to add some little embellishments. So I've got some capuchons set aside and I've already considered them for gluing onto my prints. Some pretty resin roses, flowers, some flat back pearls and some glass iridescent rhinestones. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm just going to place them on the prints and make sure I have them in kind of the roughly in place. Because I'm going to be gluing them, I don't have to have them perfectly in place. I just want to give myself a little bit of a guide to where I'm going with them. When I'm ready, I've got a little piece of scrap cardboard and I'm pouring a little puddle of super glue out. Super glue can be very messy, and this is the best way that I have discovered for doing intricate gluing like this. So what I've done here is I've just cut a paper cotton bud tip in half to make a disposable kind of spatula or stick, and then I'm dipping it into the glue, and then where I want to stick the little gems or the resin 𝕐𝕝𝕐𝕠𝕪, I'm just dabbing a small spot of the glue onto the print where I want each one to be stuck. You can embellish your prints with all kinds of little details. You can use lace, dried flowers, bits of ribbon, beads, all kinds of glitters. Colourful resin 𝕐𝕝𝕐𝕪s are particularly good because they have a different density to the clear resin. I think it's because of the colorant used to colour them. It helps keep their form, where some plastic rhinestones can have a tendency to just vanish as they are too close in properties to the clear liquid resin. It seems to reconstitute into the resin and you're just left with the silver backing of the gemstone as a kind of flat sequin in your image. So I'm using glass rhinestones to create little raised sparkles on my mermaid's tail. I put some resin flowers in her hair and I'm using the flat back pearls as little bubbles. I think they look really cute. I position them small to large beside her face and it looks a little bit like she's blowing bubbles. I've sped this up and I've glued them all securely in place. This will stop them moving around in the liquid resin and make them stay on the print. For the next part, you're going to need to wear some gloves because we're going to be handling the chemicals. To prepare my molds, I'm pouring in a little bit of acetone, and acetone is just nail polish remover. You can pick it up pretty much anywhere. I'm using the nail polish remover because it can dissolve resin. It actually can dissolve hard resin. So I'm just using it here to make sure there's no flakes of dry resin or little bits of residue in my mold. It's also great for getting up any dust or oil, as it does not leave a residue and evaporates quite fast as well. It will remove anything that's left in the mold from the last time that I might not have cleaned them very well. Next we need a measuring cup like this one. This is a nice size. It's easy to see the measurements on that, and that's important for me. The resin I'm going to be using is by Artresin. It's a 2-part epoxy, so that's 2 equal parts resin plus hardener. The measurement should be as accurate as you can get it, but if in doubt, more hardener than resin is a basic rule. If you have less hardener than the resin, you might start to have problems and the resin might come out stickier and take longer to set. If you're not sure if you've got the measurements quite right, maybe just go a little bit heavier on the hardener, but not too much. So I'm just mixing it here with a chopstick. You want to mix this really well for a couple of minutes. The resin will remain workable with for about a 40-minute window. When you're ready, you can pour your resin equally between the 3 molds. You'll have to figure out the properties of the individual mold that you are going to be using. You can measure the mold and the container you're going to be using with water, and that will give you a rough idea of the volume of resin you're going to need. I'm just pouring a nice amount in the bottom of each dish, spreading it around so it fully covers the bottom of the mold, which will be the front of our wall plaque. Now the whole bottom of our mold is covered, I'm going to use a blowtorch to remove any of the air bubbles in the resin. If you don't have a blowtorch, I think you could probably use a hot hairdryer, as long as your hairdryer isn't full of dust, because you want to keep this quite clean. A heat gun would probably also do. This is quite a handy little blowtorch. It just takes these little cans of kerosene gas, which just screw into the bottom of the torch. The heat brings all the bubbles up to the surface of the resin, making your resin nice and clear like glass. This takes a few passes of the blowtorch to get all of the air bubbles out of the resin. The resin can get very bubbly when you're mixing the hardener and the resin together. Using the blowtorch really does make a massive difference, especially if you're putting any kind of image into your resin. This part can be a little bit fumey, so do make sure that you have a window open to help ventilate your space. Before I put my print into the resin, I want to add some more details. I'm adding these little rainbow shell sequins. These colourful iridescent shells look a little bit like clamshells. I think they're really pretty. I have this idea to have them either side of my mermaid and a few along the bottom to create a kind of frame around my image of the mermaid. I've also added in some shimmery green mica into the resin. This is very subtle and very fine, and you'll be able to see right through it. It just gives the resin a little bit of a shimmer. I'm also adding here some holographic rainbow glitters from this little pot here. So I'm using my chopstick just to push them to the edge as a few of them started floating out away from the edge. When you're ready, place the print down. You want to just make sure the print is in the right position to any of the embellishments that you've added to the resin, and then push it down gently so the resin can spill over the back of the print just a little bit. This makes sure that you get a nice tight seal and the whole front of your print is completely covered. You also want to make sure that the print is sitting central in the mold as well. Pay attention to what glitters or embellishments that you've put down in the resin. Look at your print and make a good judgment before you set it down of how the glitter is going to appear on your image. Now all the prints are face down in our molds, we are ready to add some glitter to the back. I've got this chunky holographic rainbow flower shaped glitter, and this is very quick to cover the back as it's very chunky. I love the look of this under the resin. I completely covered the back of my print with this. This completely hides any printed branding that you might have on the back of your photographic paper. To this, we're going to pour more resin over that chunky glitter to seal the print. I don't know if you can see it here, but I did add a little shell bead with my website engraved on it. This is just something that I use in a lot of my jewelry making. They are quite flat, and I just put one on the back of the print, so it will be encased in the resin as well. So that's just a nice little touch which I like to include. So I'm just pouring more resin over this, and I want to fill the dish as much as I can, which will give the wall plaque a bit of weight. When you've done this, you will want to use your blowtorch again. And this is your opportunity to make sure the print is definitely in the middle of your mold. You can use your chopstick. You can also move any of the glitters that may have moved around when you were pouring your resin. The blowtorch will help remove all of the bubbles on the back, just like we did on the first layer of resin, bringing all the bubbles up to the surface. Now, I'm not saying you're going to get rid of all of the bubbles in your plaque, but I think that's part of the charm of resin, having a few of those little bubbles. But you obviously don't want to have so many bubbles that it's hard to see the image of your print. I think the bubbles are a nice curiosity as well, especially for a mermaid print. Here you can see the back, which I've also added at the last minute a little card with details about the print. I added an edition number and a signature with the name of the painting it is of. So I thought this would be a nice thing to have in the resin with the print. I just hand wrote this on a little piece of card and sunk it in. You're going to want to leave your resin now to cure for at least 48 hours. Maybe a little bit longer with something this thick. These silicone molds are quite flexible and it's easy to pop the resin out of them, but if you are having difficulty, you can soak the cured resin mold in hot water and use a little bit of dish soap. This can help with the flexibility of the silicone and the soap acts as a release aid. On this one, the cast came out of the mold with some surface impurities on it. So to save it, I have glued some extra resin carpagons onto the surface to hide and balance any of the imperfections. Before the resin fully cured, I did remember to put in a little metal loop so I could attach some ribbon to the back. So here I'm just attaching the ribbon for hanging and tying it in a little bow. And I really love how these pieces came out. I love the feeling of depth when you look into the print and the different heights of all of the little embellishments and the little bit of bubble, the whole shimmery vibe of it. I just love them. I haven't got the other one here to show you because I've already sent it away to a collector in London, but it came out much like the smooth one. And these two I will be listing soon on my shop on my website, so if you're interested you can check it out. So we're coming to the end of my video now and I do hope you enjoyed it. If you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching. Do have an inspiring week and I hope to see you all again soon for another video. Bye bye!